Good morning. I'm Judy Blades, and I've been a member here since 2009. And I wanted to talk with you about my life's work. It all started about 65 years ago. Believe it or not, when I was 5 years old, I had a life-changing event. I was hospitalized with polio. And when I was in that hospital, I was being taken care of by doctors and nurses who were wonderful and left a lasting, lifelong impression on me. And I said, when I grow up, I want to be like them. And I get nervous because I'm Italian, so. So anyway, that was my life goal. I'm going to be a nurse. And so everything that I did, grade school, high school, everything was pointed towards how is that going to help me become a nurse. I went away to college to University of Portland in Oregon and got my bachelor's of science in nursing. And they had a program there for Navy reservists, but it wasn't meant for me to have that right at that point, and that's a long story. We'll talk about that another time. But so then after graduation, I came home to California. I married, started a family, and got my first job at Los Robles Hospital when they first opened up in 1969. And so here I am, 5 foot tall, new graduate from from college, with my white starched uniform on, and my white cap, and my white shoes and my white stockings. Do you remember when nurses looked like that? And my name tag that clearly said, it clearly said RN. But I remember going into a room once and this patient said to me, "Send in the real nurse." I'm the real nurse. And it didn't take long before I was able to convince them that I knew what I was doing. I loved being a nurse, and I loved hospital nursing. But in '77, I heard of a position at a high school where they were asking for a teacher for a CNA program. You might know that as a certified nurse assistant. So I went and applied for it, and I was given that position. And so here I had not the highest motivated students at Canoga Park High School. They really would rather be out smoking. But I brought them into the classroom. I taught them some basic skills, and I said, now get on that bus. We're going to the hospital, and you're going to take care of patients. And we did that. And it's amazing how that turned their lives around so that they saw value in learning. And now, one of them in particular is a doctor up in Oregon, and another is a psychologist. So you just need to get people into what it is that will motivate them in their life's direction. I stayed at that for a couple of years, but then I was asked to take the position at Taft High School, where they had an LVN program. Do you know what an LVN is? Licensed Vocational Nurse. On the East Coast, they say LPN, Licensed Practical Nurse. So this is a class of my student nurses, actually. We train 15 students each year, 18-month program. Wrap around, so they came in September. They graduated with their high school program, their high school seniors in June, and continued with me until the end of August, where then they could sit for state board examinations, now leaving high school with a high school diploma and a license to practice nursing, if you can imagine that. So it was a wonderful program, but after a couple of years, they moved it to West Valley Occupational Center because adults wanted a little piece of this pie too. So I started teaching adults and high school students, and I continued in that career for 24 years. In the middle of it, I thought, wait a minute, that Navy career that I always wanted, I still want that, but now I'm getting old. And there's a cutoff where they don't allow you beyond age 40. So at 39, I went to the recruiter. I said, I want to be a Navy nurse. And after a little tug of war with the recruiter there, I won, and I was able to put on the uniform. And I was very proud. And this was basically because my dad had been a lifer. He was a Navy chief and wore that handsome uniform. And I said, I want that uniform. I want to wear that in honor of my daddy. So I was able to get into the reserves. Now, that's, as you know, a part-time job. It's a 1 weekend a month, and 2 weeks out of the year you have to be sent away for active duty anywhere. And I had a lot of wonderful duty stations. But then after that, you come home and you resume your civilian job. So I was able to go back to teaching at West Valley and continue that career through until I was able to retire in that. And at that time, reservists were never mobilized. That was in '86. Well, guess what? In 1991, we had Operation Desert Storm, and they mobilized us. Oh my gosh. I have 3 kids at home, one of them still in high school. And so I had to make provisions for that kid with a neighbor to be mobilized down to Camp Pendleton Naval Hospital and stay there for the duration of the time of that mobilization, which wasn't that long, but I was getting my feet wet and I was really liking this. But after that, I went back home again and continued in West Valley Occupational Center until I was able to retire from that. In 2007, with the Navy was looking for 300 military medical personnel to send over to Germany. And I don't know if you remember our hospital, Landstuhl, in Germany. It's an Army facility. It's the largest military medical facility in Europe. And so 300 of us went over to backfill for the Army so the Army could take their personnel and send them downrange to Afghanistan and Iraq to take care of our soldiers down there. And that was an incredible year for me, working at that hospital and getting to know the wounded warriors there and see what marvelous care we gave to those personnel. We had a lot of visitors on our wards. We had military and political dignitaries who would come on, and many of them had this, I meant to bring them, coin that they would hold in their hands, and when they shook hands with the soldiers in their beds, they transferred that coin to those soldiers as a memento of their visit. We also had Hollywood visitors, and the most significant and frequent flyer that we had was Gary Sinise. I don't know if you remember him. Oh, I'm sorry, this is on the ward of Larmsey, Landstuhl Hospital, myself on the ward, and we always had to wear our camos on, I don't know why, they were so hot. And doing nursing care in that uniform was ridiculous. And those are my 2 grandchildren who came over to visit in Germany with me for one of our visits there. So where was I? I told you, did I tell you about Gary Sinise? Okay, so Gary, and he would come on the ward, and he made several visits during the course of that year, and as he was coming on the ward, the soldiers would say, "Hey, Lieutenant Dan, come on over here, I want to visit with you." You remember his role in Forrest Gump? They all recognized him for that. Anyway, I learned a lot about military medicine, about the care that we gave, about the effects of war on people, and it was an incredible time of learning. When I came back home, now it's 2009, and my husband at the time, Barry, and I were looking for a new church home because my other values were just not clicking with me anymore after that experience in Germany. It really had opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. And so we found the UU and gratefully have been here ever since. I continued then as in my civilian work as a hospice nurse and learned the softer side of me and how to care for people and how to bring comfort and compassion to those who were dying, not only to they, but to their families. And it was an incredible walk for me to be able to bring them through a very difficult time. I remember one patient in particular was an attorney, a 42-year-old attorney in our community who had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, paralyzed on a respirator, but still practicing law from his bed. He was a lawyer, and his wife wanted to be a lawyer. She was his assistant, and so he was teaching her everything that he knew. I remember visits to them, and I would walk in, and here's these 3 bounding golden retrievers coming at me, and his wife, and then walking up the stairs to where he was, and sitting on his bed, and just having a great visit. And he was so funny and so witty, even though he was having difficulty speaking. But it was a wonderful time of helping him get through this very challenging passing that he was experiencing. And I'll always remember him and his wife and his 3 dogs. I finished my career in 2016 and have been working in the community in volunteer work ever since then, but it's been a wonderful ride for me, and nursing has been an incredible career. I wish you all the same in your careers, that it could be so rewarding. I wish you a happy Labor Day, and thank you for letting me share this with you.
Good morning. I'm Mike Posey, and I'm a career active duty naval flight officer. So I'd wear my uniform today, but I don't quite look as sharp as Judy. I wore this obnoxious shirt instead. All right. I've flown primarily in the E-2C Hawkeye, pictured here, with over 2,000 hours in the platform. I've flown 65 missions in combat over Iraq and Afghanistan, and provided airborne early warning and command and control for carrier strike groups and over-the-beach missions. I have about 100 hours flying in the F-18 Super Hornet down in the bottom right-hand corner there, but that is not my primary airframe. The E-2C is my bread and butter. It's my community. And our community is small. We're proud of what we do, and on the West Coast, we're based here at Naval Base Ventura County. So I joined the Navy because it was a great opportunity. I grew up in a working class family, and the Navy provided me with a scholarship to attend Carnegie Mellon University. And there's no way my parents could have afforded to send me to a private school like that. So since graduating from college on my ROTC scholarship, I've earned 2 more graduate degrees with the Navy's help. And I just pay them back in time. Navy's been good to me and given me a lot of opportunity, and I try to pass that on to my troops. There I am with my mom on graduation day, the last photo of me as a civilian, since later that evening I was commissioned as an officer in the Navy. So after ROTC, I went on to earn my Wings of Gold, which was no walk in the park. The training was tough, competition was fierce, and a lot of people didn't make it through. In this environment, no one cares who your dad is. No one cares how wealthy you are. Events in training, like in the air, are all pass and fail and based on merit. And then there I am with my mom. There are my Wings of Gold. So the E-2C is based off an aircraft carrier, and as such, I spent a lot of the 20-plus years in the Navy at sea. I've completed 7 deployments, each lasting between 6 to 8 months. To say a deployment is tough is an understatement. While my first deployment was truly exciting, as I became a family man, updating my will and writing just in case I die letters to my children and my wife, made deployment, well, not as easy. For the newer sailors, the work is quite arduous, with long hours, little sleep, a lot of noise, and exhausting because you are always in a fiercely unforgiving environment. We're cut off from the world at sea. Mail can take a month or 2, and the email is surprisingly sporadic given the frustratingly limited bandwidth we have available. So there have been good times too. There I am sailing into my hometown of Reno, Nevada. Yeah, I'm from San Francisco. All right. And I've been all over the world thanks to the Navy. Good places and not as good places. For those of you who can't see it so well, this is a world map with red dots all over it. And the red dots are where the Navy has brought me. So my travels have taught me to have a deeper tolerance and that human beings are all looking for the same thing. I've worked with several other nations and their militaries as well. Indian pilots, Turkish sailors, South Korean soldiers, Saudi airmen, Brits, Aussies, Kiwis, Japanese, Nigerians, Macedonians, the list goes on and on. They all just want to take care of their families, maybe have a little adventure, maybe make the world a better place. In customs and in uniform, we're different, but in spirit, we're not. then there's no greater feeling coming home from a deployment. And absence truly does make the heart grow fonder. That's our little chalice lighter right there. So here are some pictures from my current tour at Naval Base Ventura County as an operations officer. I too have met Gary Sinise. He's a good man. All right, I have about 400 people working for me, and they do great things day in and day out, whether it's providing security for the base, fire and emergency services, running the port, or running the airfield. I still get to fly once in a while, and I still get to visit places like San Nicolas Island, which is part of the base, along with Port Hueneme and Naval Air Station Point Mugu. Had a chance to meet our local government officials. There I am with Congresswoman Brownlee. She's an amazing person, too. And I've got to be the retiring officer for the first female Samoan Master Chief, and a Master Chief is the highest enlisted rank in the Navy. I'm up with her in the top left-hand corner. And that's what's kept me in the Navy for so long, the people and the opportunities. I'd say today, the Navy's a meritocracy. Many of my colleagues, my peers, my bosses, my deputies, et cetera, are women, they're minorities, they're gay. Because they have that opportunity. I've had sailors who've come from rough neighborhoods like Compton, California, or similar places, and now the Navy's given them a good life. When you've been in combat and you've had that sort of arduous experience, you really don't have time to care what color someone's skin is. You're cared more that they just got your back, or as we say in aviation, they have your six. So if you flew onto the deck of an aircraft carrier, first of all, it'd be exciting. But at the helm of the ship, you could see an 18-year-old African-American woman driving that 4.5 acres of steel. No one cares if she's gay, black. No one cares if she's a woman. No one cares that she's only 18 years old. All anyone cares about is she stays awake and steers the ship safely for the 5,000 sailors aboard. And that's every single person. If you could multiply their experiences, that's all anyone cares about is, are you getting the mission done? And so I think that's really similar to what we say here at UU. The values and deeds are the window to your soul, you know. All right, thanks for letting me give you a quick glimpse of what I do. Navy's let me fly planes, mentor hundreds of young men and women, and hopefully, maybe by flying missions, maybe by giving a sound, educated recommendation to an admiral or high-ranking policymaker, maybe just by being on the aircraft carrier, deterring a dictator, or maybe through overseas military-to-military engagement, maybe, just maybe, I could nudge the world to a better state of peace. Thanks.
Figured I'd have to sing it now. Okay. Hi, I'm Anita Contini, and I am a teacher. But that is not just my profession. It's actually who I am to the core. It's in my blood. And I was going to be a teacher since the day I was born. I just refused to recognize it and fought it tooth and nail. But as a kid, I would corral all of my cousins together and set up our little foldable TV stands in my parents' bedroom. And I would create lessons that were differentiated for age, for ability, for behavior. And if I was really lucky, I would steal out of my dad's recycle bin his carbon copy forms from his school district. And I would geek out for these forms. Like, they were fantastic to me. And I'd write notes to the parents, send them home with the kids. But I was not going to be a teacher. See, my dad was a teacher, and he ended up becoming a principal and then a superintendent. 2 of his sisters were teachers. His mom was a teacher. She would often sub for me in my high school French class, which was a blast. She'd stick out her hand and make me spit out gum, because I was that kid. And then my mom's side also infected me as well. Her mother was studying to be a teacher and never finished, but 2 of her daughters became teachers. And my mom started as a clinical nurse and then ended up in school nursing and retired as health program specialist at Ventura County Office of Education. So it was kind of destined. I was surrounded by it, and I absolutely hated it People would often tell me like, oh, you're going to be a great teacher. And I just scoffed at them, or I'd roll my eyes when they would say, you're such a natural teacher. I did not like it. I didn't find that to be a meaningful profession. It was just because everyone else was doing it in my world. So it wasn't me. I was going to be a masseuse, specializing in reflexology. I was also going to be an actress doing stage productions, musical theater, never film. I did not agree with film. I thought it was a waste of talent. I was also going to be an interior designer with an emphasis in feng shui. So I had these grandiose plans for myself. And then one day when I was at Moore Park College, finding myself through a 4-year path, I discovered a job as a preschool teacher. And I was like, great, I'm going to make good money to pay for my lifestyle right now, which was going clubbing and buying shoes. And that was, to me, it was good money. And so people become teachers for the money. So I did. And then suddenly, all of a sudden, I found myself loving the job. I never called out sick. I couldn't get enough of it. I loved preschool. And preschool teachers, teachers in general, and I'm not just saying it because I'm one, but we don't, I think, in our society, give enough appreciation or value to the profession as a whole. And preschool teachers, they are completely ignored under the rug sometimes. I mean, a good preschool teacher is fully capable of herding kittens. And while they're doing that, they're actually also cutting up all the snacks to be exactly the same size, because you never want to hear an unfair, or mutiny will incur. And then they also are able to do so while distributing glitter onto what was supposed to be a really thin line of glue, but it's like a glob all over the kid and the paper. And while they're doing that, they're singing a song, a ridiculous song that makes them feel very mature. And it's the one moment in that one little shy child's life that they come out of their shell and they're shining like that glitter. And so a preschool teacher has such a huge impact, and it's a wonderful, wonderful world, and I am so honored that I got to do it for 6 years. But it opened up the door for me with education. I graduated from Channel Islands, got my credential from there, and then my parents shoved me out the door to join the Peace Corps, because that was something else I'd always wanted to do. And I was like, no, I need to start my career. And they were like, no, you need to listen to us. And I thought, yeah, I kind of do, because you told me my whole life I should be a teacher, and I was going to be a teacher, and I ignored you. So I'll listen. So I set off and ended up in Mozambique, working at the Instituto de Formação de Professores de Chibuto Twini in the province of Maputo in Mozambique. And I had the coolest experience. To go from a preschool teacher to now training 20 and 30-year-olds how to become English elementary school teachers was and I discovered, I got to find my notes because I kind of went rogue here. I discovered 3 things that I found incredibly common across the board of all students. And that is, students always have a need for you to fan their flame, their passion, not your own. But still helping them, as you have to guide them through the mandated curriculum that you just have to do, but you still want to find that inner passion that the child has, or the adult when I was in the Peace Corps. They also need to be able to trust their teacher, because most students spend most of their time with teachers, not their actual parents. If you look at the hours in the day, half of the time with the parents is sleeping hours, which for my child is incredible bonding experience, because she wakes me up all the time, so I know we get extra hours that way. And then the third thing I learned was that kids in general, students in general, I think all of us have a need to enjoy learning, and if we struggle with that, we have to find that inner drive within ourselves to barrel through, even when it's not fun, and find a way to make it fun for us. So my time in the Peace Corps really did make me a better teacher. When I returned, I ended up in the second most dangerous neighborhood in Oakland, and I felt so at home there. My parents that I worked with, they completely enveloped us. They made our school community safe and protected, and it was an amazing experience. And my students loved that I was now a second language learner, because while in the Peace Corps, I learned Portuguese, and I had to teach British English. So I came back to the States so confused, And like, I would be talking and writing U's for color, and my students loved it. It helped us bond. I had my demographics of my classes up in Oakland were about 20% African American, roughly 70% anything South considered Hispanic or Latino, which really is like a whole plethora of other cultures that don't encompass by that term. And then the like 1-ish% that were from Tonga or somewhere in the Middle East. So it was quite an interesting dynamic in that area, and most of those kids carried a lot of baggage with them. But my heart will always be divided through my teaching experience, through being a Peace Corps teacher, working in the Peace Corps, 4th grade up in Oakland, or now 3rd grade here in the Conejo Valley. But I sit there and think, okay, I want to be a good teacher. I think I'm a decent teacher to some extent. Some kids, I'm a great teacher for them. I'm like decent for the majority and like horrible for a few, because that's just the way it goes. Like you can't reach everybody no matter how hard you try. And that's the reality. But even though I would love to have this large scaling impact, I know that the impact is always on me. I'm the one who's impacted every year by my kids. I will be forever changed by my little V, who carried her mom to school every day because her mom was too strung out to walk, yet every day she'd carry her mom because mom wanted to be a part of the school environment. And when V was in my classroom and the assignment was self-portrait, so V's doing her self-portrait, and another adult in the room comes over and goes, "Oh, you can't do that, you have to start over," because she was giving herself rainbow hair. And it was one of those moments that no, if she wants, come on. If she sees herself with rainbow hair, girl has rainbow hair. Like, it doesn't matter. It's how you see yourself. It's your self-portrait. And it was one of those moments as a teacher that I realized I'm so encouraged by her ability to see beauty when there's darkness all around her. Or my little T, who came through the door on the first day of school with so much anger and such a chip on his shoulder, and he would throw chairs as his way to communicate. That was how he expressed dissent for the lesson, or somebody was looking at him. And yet at the last day of school, he walked out of my class and gave me this sweet, gentle, kind hug. And from him, I just was in awe of his ability to just grow and transform as an individual. He came in hard and scared and walked out emboldened. And it's just, I am in awe that these little people can do that. So while I did not become a masseuse, I do work tirelessly every day to massage young minds to formulate their own ideas and opinions. I never became an actress in musical theater, but every day I am on stage, and sometimes my audience is responsive, and sometimes they're not. And I do not deem total and utter attention for the entire show. I like to circulate through the crowd as they mingle and work, and always there supporting and always giving my best. And trust me, there is a lot of singing happening in my classroom, so I still feel like I get my little Broadway experience. And no, I did not become an interior designer. I never created that dream, rustic, modern, shabby, chic, steampunk room, but I do consider the flow between the spaces in my classroom very important. The flexible seating options so that it can maximize the students' ability to focus and do their best work, and just for them to be productive individuals in the classroom. And every year, I am inspired by all the original works of art I get to put up in my walls. So I became a teacher. I am a teacher, but through it all, I've learned that I'm actually an eternal student. Thank you.
Well, those are 3 tough acts to follow. I wish I had a more honorable career. I kind of started off thinking that I was going to be a surgeon. That kind of evolved into becoming an environmental engineer. I've got a master's degree in environmental engineering and a bachelor's degree in biology, but 22 years ago, a close friend of mine talked me into working on his independent feature film in Central New York State as a location scout manager. And originally I thought it was just going to be a fun summer job, and then I'd go back to my career as an environmental engineer. But by the time it was over, most of the people that worked on the film had convinced me that I was good at this and that I should pursue it. And I did. I moved to Los Angeles, away from the snowy cold of Central New York, which was fine with me. And I've been here ever since and been a location scout and manager. So If you were to ask me what my job is, I would probably tell you the best part, the location scout part, and it's the easiest to describe. I find locations for films and TV shows and commercials, and that sounds like a pretty good job to most people, and it is. You might imagine me with a camera on a snow-covered mountain, or scouting for remote beaches from a helicopter in Australia, or hiking through old-growth forests in search of the most remote untouched scenery, or even standing alone in the middle of a darkened stadium as the lights come on just for me to take a photograph. I've done all that stuff and some other pretty cool stuff, and it's amazing that I've been able to do that and get paid to do it. And there are some other perks to my job. I get to use my imagination and creativity on a daily basis. My car is the closest thing I have to an office. Shorts and a t-shirt are appropriate attire for work pretty much every day. And I really don't have to talk to my boss until maybe the end of the day, just to give him a lowdown on what I did. So that's kind of the fun half of my job, the location scout part. The other half of my job is a little tougher, the location managing part of things. It's not all glitz and glamour, but there is some Hollywood magic involved. As a location manager, I have many duties. I'm not just a photographer or a traveler. I have to be an artistic visionary. I have to see how a location can be transformed for whatever project we're working on before I present it to the director. I have to be a logistics and regulatory specialist. I have to know what restrictions there might be at a location, and if I'll be able to get a film permit for that location and what it might take for that. I'm a negotiator that's skilled at coming up with a fair price for both the owner and the production company. And I'm also the person that hangs those yellow signs with the black letters at every freeway off-ramp throughout LA. So when you see those, you'll think of me. I also provide the canvas for all the other departments on a commercial to add their artistic touches to. So I make sure that all the furniture is taken out of a home so that the production designer can bring theirs in and add that touch. I make sure that we have a permit to close the street so that the gaffer can put a big 80-foot condor with lights in the street and light up an apartment building from the outside in the middle of the night. I'm the first person to arrive on set and the last person to leave, so I have kind of long hours and it's sometimes a very stressful job that's, I'm responsible for everything that pertains to the location and making sure that it all goes well. Those are the difficult parts of my job, and those things have kind of taught me the most. They've taught me to stay calm and be prepared for the inevitable changes as they come at the last minute. They've also taught me that the show goes on, and it will go on. Most things that really seem important at the time to the other people on the crew are really not that important in the scheme of life. It's just entertainment that we're working on. My long hours have taught me the importance of taking a break in between jobs and cherishing the moments that I have at home with my family, enjoying the time that I have off in between jobs to get back to the things that I didn't have time for, the things that I enjoy, riding my bike or hiking, and just helping out around the house. So, I would have never imagined that I'd be a part of this industry, the film and entertainment industry, but here I am, and I think that we provide an escape, some entertainment, laughter, excitement for many people all over the world, and allows people to recharge our minds and our spirits, If you were here last week, you heard Nika talking about how important that is to all of us. And I also have another more direct hand in bringing some joy and maybe a little wealth to people, because I'm the guy that hands you the check if I'm renting your property. If you can think of me the next time you're fast forwarding through those commercials, because that's mainly what I work on. That's what pays the bills. Stop and think of me and all the hardworking people that it took to make that. It's kind of astounding when you see a film crew, how much is involved. And make sure you answer your door the next time you get a knock, because it might be me or another scout wanting to offer you some money to rent your property. Thank you. I hope you all enjoy your Labor Day.